I think, especially nowadays, people are afraid of simplicity and honesty because it might be construed as boring or unoriginal. And I think, everyone is always trying to put their best foot forward and pretend their lives are fabulous. Especially with social media, we have all this pressure. So I think it's easier to inject a little drama, inject extra layers when there's really not that much going on. I mean, I'm sure I'm guilty of it.
Testing 1 2 1 2.
This is too loud, though.
You don't know where
Peter is my alter ego for my manly alter ego.
I am talking. Oh, lady, looking at me.
Okay, what do you want me to say?
1 2 3 4 5 6 7.
Thank you.
8.
You'd think I knew about these things.
I think intimacy automatically leads to commitment. And it's very easy to be vocal, whether it's about political issues or in your personal life or whatever, but being vocal doesn't mean committing. Saying that you want life to be fair and everyone to have like equal rights and equal pay, that makes us feel good, that makes us feel like we're involved, but how much does that commit us to actually doing something about it? And I think it's the same in personal relationships. I think the words "I love you" are thrown around a lot because it makes us feel like we're these amazing people who feel and who open ourselves up. But how many people who actually say those words mean it or commit to it? So it's hard. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I always thought my whole life that I was a super sensitive person who threw her heart and soul into relationships, and that I was so giving. And then I realized, no, I'm terrified of commitment. And by offloading all of that, by expressing all of that, in a way, I'm making sure that I don't commit because I'm rushing everything. I'm being so loud that there's no substance underneath. I mean, I think deep down we want to be special individuals, but then we want to follow the crowd, whether it's the Christian crowd or the liberal crowd or whatever. Yeah. And I think it's also very dangerous that the other side of people expressing themselves is that there's more division because it's the deplorables, the horrible Republicans, the horrible Trump supporters, the horrible liberals, the horrible fags, the horrible this. Right. And in a way, we're just making more lines all the time. And also, I mean, and this is a very personal opinion, but I'm all for marching, supporting larger causes. But how about we just be nice to the people in our own fucking backyard? Take Hudson, for example. There's a lot of great things happening. But how about we just promote the local school system, which is a shit show, but filled with people who are working really hard, but they need money, they need support. I'm much more supportive of small grassroots movements than it's yeah, you drove all the way to Washington, D.C. to march, but what's going on at home? How do you react when you see discrimination right around you? How do you personally react when you're walking late at night and you see a black person? Maybe that needs to be thought about more. Yeah. How do you react when you see some asshole pushing his wife around in public? Or that a kid is not going to eat today because he can't afford the school lunch. There's so many but that's not pretty. We're worried about our Instagram followers liking us. But how about the poor guy who has to make our coffee every morning and we're a dick to them? Mm-hmm. I mean, I am the biggest fucking whiner. Can I curse?
Yeah.
Okay. I am the biggest whiner ever. I mean, I bitch about everything. I just vent. But at the same time, I'm white and privileged. I mean, my parents weren't super wealthy, but I grew up very nicely, and I have a very nice life. So it's kind of yeah, of course I can bitch, but I also have to pick and choose where and to whom I bitch. I think the problem, though, deep down, is not so much people as establishments. Because establishments have nothing to do with people. Whether it's the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, I honestly don't think fundamentally they give a shit about people. But I grew up in the 80s in London. And I was skinny, I was reasonably pretty, I got a lot of stuff for free, I went to a lot of really good clubs, I did a lot of naughty things, and my life was a bubble. I really don't know when I started becoming aware of the larger world around me. You know, I think it was probably in school and in my early 20s. So after Bennington, I moved to the city. But again, I was doing lights for rock and roll and theater and working in nightclubs. So again, a bubble. I had a very good friend of mine who was a musician, like everyone around me, but he used to work for God's Love We Deliver. You know what, I think...
the first place I volunteered.
Okay. And I would go on runs with him. And I think that was, probably my first direct experience as a white privileged brat of how people who didn't have the same life as me lived and dealt with things, is going on rounds to the Bronx, to like, you know, buttfuck nowhere Bay Ridge, and seeing people dying and struggling who weren't putting a brave face on at the clubs, who weren't getting, you know, recognition in the media or, you know, support. So yeah, that I think was probably kind of the wake up for me. Well, first of all, things have really changed, because I first got here when I was 19, which is 26 years ago almost, you know, and then I was here for 10 years. I left for 10 years, and then I came back 5 years ago. And when I decided to come back in 2012, I really missed America. I really missed the diversity. I really missed the freedom. And even before Trump, like, you could already feel, even during the Obama years, just with all the like hatred towards Obama, and things started coming out of the woodwork, you know, and it just, America felt tense, whereas it hadn't felt tense before. It had never been like utopia, but there was a tension. There was cynicism. There's this fear and this sadness and this sense of loss, which I think that is so much more terrifying than the hatred in a way, because anyone can feel that. And when people feel that, that's when things start getting scary.
The way Mr. Trump handles his personal life and what he does is his business. It's not going to affect me. What's going to affect me is Hillary. Supreme Court, open borders. She's going to make Merry Christmas a banned phrase. That affects me. My husband and I will pay $6,000 more in taxes when if Hillary gets in. She's not. People are angry. Mr. Trump is our only hope.
As a person, I think he's a disgusting human being. Just no empathy, no class, no... I've seen no redeeming features. I do hope he has some. As a political entity, he's a tool, you know? And I honestly, like, I get very upset when I read the news about Trump this and Trump that, but who I'm really pissed about is the political establishment that's supporting him. Because he's a fucking idiot. I mean, I'm sorry, the guy does not have much of a brain. You know, if he was left to make decisions, like, he would either already have drowned in a teacup or the world would be an Armageddon. But he's an idiot. But it's all the people supporting him, the GOP establishment, and even like some Democrats who, you know, he's convenient. He's a convenient scapegoat, who really, I think, are dangerous.
Together, we will make America strong again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
But see that as an immigrant myself, is a very interesting concept that I don't understand. Like how, you know, put America first, make America great again, like us Americans. There is no such thing as us Americans. So when did that start? When did the nationalism begin? Like, when did Americans become Americans? But at the same time, you know, St. Patrick's Day was just the other day, and suddenly everyone is Irish. Having to define myself as a liberal, when the long list of things that are considered liberal are not necessarily all my beliefs. So words are powerful, and sometimes I don't like words. I prefer actions. Like, show me you're a good person. Don't tell me you're a good person.
Right.
You know, you're a liberal, prove it. And what does liberal mean to you anyway? Like if it's buying the latest t-shirt from Urban Outfitters that says Black Lives Matter, then fuck you. And it's the same with opinion. I'm more interested in how people feel about something than their well-defined, eloquent opinion. I think we're very afraid that we're not good people. You know, I think liberals, just as much as the Christian right, whatever, we hang on to what we perceive is goodness and what defines us as goodness. So to be a good Christian who follows the word of God, that makes us a good person. Or to be a good liberal who fights for equality, that makes us a good person. We're terrified of looking bad and looking at ourselves in the mirror and not liking what we see and who we are. So, I feel like everything comes down to fear. We're also fucking terrified. Terrified of what we don't have, terrified of losing what we do have, terrified of not being seen in the way we want to project, you know, terrified of someone else getting what we want. It's a convenient label we attach to things we want to provoke. But I don't know how many revolutions in history have been true revolutions. So it's a box. We need things to be put in boxes. Even when we're destroying things, we still need to like put things in boxes. But you know, I remember being in school and we studied apartheid. And I think I must have been maybe like 14 or something. And I couldn't understand how in a country, 10% of a population could dominate and subjugate 90% of a population for so long. I couldn't understand it. Like, there were so many less people. Like, how is that even possible? And I think that happens all the time, whether it's with sexual harassment or different communities or whatever. People stay quiet and people don't support each other for long periods of time. And so, yeah, revolutions where people come together, yes, that's a revolution. But why do we stay separate and hidden in our corners for so long? And what are the catalysts that, like, does it always have to be bad things?
We are witnesses to the most ruthless attack on a president and the people who voted for him, and the free system that allowed it to happen in American history. From the highest levels of government to their media, universities, and billionaires, their hateful defiance of his legitimacy is an insult to each of us. But the ultimate insult is that they think we're so stupid that we'll let them get away with it. These saboteurs slashing away with their leaks and sneers, their phony accusations and gagging sanctimony, drive their daggers through the heart of our future, poisoning our belief that honest custody of our institutions will ever again be possible, so they can then build their utopia from the ashes of what they burned down. No, their fate will be failure, and they will perish in the political flames of their own fires. We are the National Rifle Association of America, and we are freedom's safest place.
And again, I feel stupid saying this. I don't understand why you need an assault rifle for anything. You know, it's like, yeah, let people have their guns to go hunt, and if it makes them feel safer, but not all guns. You know, like just because nuclear weapons were invented, should we all have one in our backyard? I mean, that's fucking stupid. And also, why is it so easy to get a gun? I'm in the process of changing my French driver's license to an American one. I have to go through the whole process again. I've got a bloody learner's permit right now, and then I've got to go to driving school, and then I've got to take my test. And I've been driving for 25 years. But if I was an American, I can go out and buy a gun tomorrow and probably, wait 2 days maximum?
You could go to Florida tomorrow and get a gun right now.
I'd love to go to Florida tomorrow. But I don't understand why it's a problem that there should be more rules. Like, why is that? That's not an infringement of your rights. And owning stuff is not a right. You know, there are very, like, walking down the street and not getting shot, that should be a right.
Yeah, this is the third officer who has been acquitted of all charges in connection to the death of Freddie Gray. Lieutenant Brian Rice, he was the highest ranking officer on the scene that day that Mr. Gray was arrested, was injured in that van, and then later died.
See, I honestly think that by not holding cops accountable, we're setting them up for failure.
I couldn't agree with
I have a lot of respect for a lot of police people I've met in my life. And I think most people who go into the police force do it with good intentions. But, you know, it's...
Hey, show me your hands, good.
Tonight, new body cam video showing the critical moments after the fatal police shooting of Stephon Clark.
You have a gun?
We don't hear you.
Confusion. Two Sacramento officers who fired 20 shots, still unclear whether Clark is armed.
Police department, can you hear us?
We need to know if you're okay.
Clark motionless in his grandmother's backyard. It was roughly 7 minutes before officers performed CPR.
No pulse from breathing?
No.
You kill a poor kid who has no weapon on them and wasn't threatening you, you deserve the consequences. Don't make it more complicated than that. Don't even make it about race or whatever or police brutality. You fucked up. There are laws. You should have consequences. And I think the more, because we're making everything political, when it should just be, you broke the law. That's it.
Sometimes I wish I'd never met you. But then I realized just how harsh that sounds, and I honestly don't mean it to. But that still doesn't make it any less true. You were unexpected. We tried so hard to deflect it, redirect it, but we felt so connected. We couldn't help it. How could we help it? But I'm not mad, just lonely, which is weird for me, because alone is how I usually most want to be. That way there's no attachment, so I can't get hurt, which is probably also why I find I'm always leaving first, and I get the hell out when things get too real, because God forbid someone ever try to make me feel, and I back the hell away if people try to get too close, because I know all too well those are the people that hurt you the most, and I'm usually quiet. It depends on who's around. I'm not really one to speak just to hear the sound of my own voice. Sometimes my silence is a choice. And it's not that I'm better, and it's not that I'm worse. I'd just much rather write my thoughts into a verse, and I already know the thoughts in my own head, so I guess I'd prefer to just listen instead.
Well, okay, I'll be narcissistic and I'll just answer you from my perspective.
Well, please do. So this is about...
I want to be in love romantically because I want to have sex, preferably a lot of it with someone I actually like, and because I want to share things with someone. Like, that's the only hard thing about being alone for me is when shit happens, and it can be really good stuff. You want to share it with someone. So that's why I want to be in love. I want to like a partner and really good sex. But connection with people, we want to be seen. You know, even if we only show little bits and pieces of ourselves, we want to be seen. I think art is sharing. And sometimes artists share things that hopefully people will recognize themselves in. And not everyone can be an artist, not everyone wants to be an artist, and not everyone should be an artist. But the people who do create and share, it's good for them, and I think it's beneficial to other people. I think it's part of us all seeing each other, and maybe seeing each other in ways that we hadn't thought of on our own. Okay, well, based on my experience, it is possible to adapt and it's possible to reinvent yourself. Doesn't matter what people throw at you. Like, it is possible. And I think it's important for people to remember that, and it's possible to change. I also, I'm always saying that human beings are despicable, but they're also capable of great things, even minor things. So yeah, if the world blows up tomorrow, there are some cool things done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was fun.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh my God. See, now I feel old. It's so weird. I've talked more to you in the last hour than I talk to like most people when I'm not working in a week.
That's fantastic.